Cathra had witnessed much across her 3 centuries of existence, yet nothing compared to the sight before her now. The creature inside the containment pod did not rage, did not tremble, did not even glare in defiance. Instead, it looked bored. Truly bored, as if waiting for a transport shuttle rather than standing trial as one of the deadliest predators in the known galaxy. "Are you certain the neural dampeners are functioning?" Cathra asked, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence as she scanned the display. Within the pod, the human female studied her fingernails as though trapped in an endless lecture. "Delightfully primitive." "Confirmed, Administrator," Vex replied, his tendrils twitching with unease. "All systems are in the green. Subject should be experiencing complete motor suppression and slowed cognition." The human yawned. Cathra's mandibles clicked in something dangerously close to amusement. "Fascinating. Update the archives. Note that human neural dampeners may require recalibration." "Shall I increase the dosage?" Vex asked tentatively. "Oh no," Cathra answered, her tone sharp with that dangerous lilt that unsettled her subordinates. "This will be far more entertaining as it is. Begin the announcement sequence." Beneath them, the arena unfolded like a vast metallic blossom, its walls climbing 200 meters into the artificial sky of Station Helix 9. 20,000 spectators packed the observation tiers, their countless forms, scaled, furred, crystalline, and synthetic, woven into a living mosaic. Wagers had already reached ruinous levels. After all, it was not every cycle that a Deathworlder faced public execution. Cathra's amplified voice boomed across the Colosseum. "Citizens of the Galactic Federation, today you witness justice for the crimes committed aboard Trader's Rest Station. The human terrorist, Zara Kane, responsible for the deaths of 47 beings and the destruction of 3 decks, will face judgment. By combat. Against our finest champions." The crowd erupted, some in eager roars, others in anxious trills. Humans were legends, yes, but mostly in myth, monsters quarantined on their hellworld. Those few who had escaped rarely survived long. Yet this one had lasted 6 months, leaving 3 sectors in chaos. "The rules are simple," Cathra declared, her tone dripping with relish. "Surrender means death. Victory means, well, also death, though accompanied by glory." She paused, savoring the silence. "Let us welcome our first challenger." The arena floor split apart, a lift platform rising with a grinding of machinery. The being revealed drew gasps and unsettled stomach. Brutax the Render. Towering 4 meters tall, crystalline carapace glinting like fractured starlight, each of his 6 arms ended in claws capable of cleaving warship plating. His species, the Kethmori, were dreaded across the galaxy as predators born of pure violence. "Now this should prove interesting," Vex muttered, adjusting the broadcast feeds. The human's containment pod lowered into the pit with mechanical precision. The energy field dissolved, and Zara Kane stepped out casually, stretching as though waking from a light nap. She was smaller than Cathra had imagined, barely 2 meters, appearing fragile beside Brutax's mass. Dark hair tied back in a simple tail, clad only in the plain prisoner's jumpsuit that somehow seemed like leisure wear upon her frame. "Hey there, big guy," Zara called, her voice echoing across the vast chamber. "Nice claws. Compensating for something?" Brutax unleashed a roar that rattled the steelwork, a sound known to shatter glass at close quarters. The crowd fell into silence. Zara tilted her head, unfazed. "Was that a yes or a no?" "I don't speak, angry lobster." The timer activated. 60 seconds to live, if she was fortunate. Brutax charged, his bulk moving with terrifying speed, claws arcing in a death swipe meant to bisect her. But she was no longer there. A shift, half a meter, no more, and 6 gleaming talons carved only air. "Ooh, close one," Zara quipped, lightly patting his armored shoulder as if scolding a clumsy pet. "Maybe try using your eyes next time." What happened next would one day be dissected in xenobiology lectures across the Federation. Her hand, appearing to graze the seam of his plating, slid into an unseen gap. A wet, crushing sound followed. Brutax, the render collapsed forward with catastrophic finality, face first into the floor. Silence. Did she just? Vex began, disbelief choking his voice. Kill a Kethmori warrior barehanded? Cathra finished, her tone clipped. Timer. 47 seconds remaining. Zara was already striding to the arena's center, raising a hand to the audience like an athlete savoring applause. Who's next? Come on, I'm just getting warmed up. A tremor of exhilaration ran through Cathra's nerves. Unprecedented. The betting pools would need instant recalibration. Release Challenger 2. The second platform ascended, revealing a figure that even gave Cathra pause. Nexus 7. A combat construct forged by the synthetic collective for one purpose: gladiatorial supremacy. Its humanoid body gleamed with adaptive armor capable of hardening to diamond density in microseconds. Twin plasma cannons nested in its forearms. Reflex time measured in nanoseconds. Oh, a robot, Zara said, sounding genuinely delighted. I love robots. They're so logical. Nexus 7's optics locked onto her. Target acquired. Initiating termination protocol. The android moved faster than lightning, twin plasma bursts searing toward Zara with perfect trajectory, mathematically precise. But humans did not obey the expected patterns of physics. Zara flowed between the blasts like water spilling through fractured stone. In 3 strides she reached the machine, leapt, and drove her elbow down upon its head. The force cratered the arena floor, collapsing circuitry and armor alike. Nexus 7's head sank into its torso with a sound that mingled metal and ruin. Timer? Cathra asked softly, though she already sensed the answer. 19 seconds, Vex replied, voice shrill, panic bleeding through. The crowd no longer roared. They whispered in frightened tones. These were no feral beasts, no nameless criminals. They were apex killers, champions, and yet this human dispatched them as if they were simulations in a training hall. Perhaps we should reconsider, Vex ventured. Nonsense, Cathra hissed, though unease gnawed at her core. Release the hive mind cluster. The third challenger did not enter the arena as a single entity. It spilled forth as a living tide, hundreds of insectoid bodies, each the size of a small child, but bound together by a collective mind with the intellect of a supercomputer. They spread across the floor in flawless formation, their wings and limbs creating a whispering storm of chitin. Zara tilted her head, studying them as though reviewing an interesting experiment. Hive mind, huh? That's new. Do you guys do parties? The swarm struck with surgical precision, dozens of angles converging in perfect synchrony. For a heartbeat, it almost appeared they would overwhelm her. The human vanished within the cloud of bodies, swallowed by a sea of claws and mandibles. Then the screaming began. One by one, insectoid fragments were hurled outward at breakneck speed, shredded torsos and shattered wings raining across the arena. Within moments, the swarm collapsed into chaos, until Zara strode calmly from the center of the carnage, brushing away splinters of chitin as though she'd waded through tall grass. Well, that was refreshing, she remarked, flicking debris from her jumpsuit. Got my heart rate up a little. Cathra's composure cracked. Vex, status of the crowd? Several sections are demanding refunds, he said quickly. Others are trying to flee. Security forces are barely holding order. Cathra looked down. 3 of the galaxy's most lethal combatants now lay in ruins, and still the humans stood untouched. Worse, Zara was looking up at the viewing box, shading her eyes with one hand as if this were an afternoon spectacle. Hey, the human called cheerfully. Are we done with the warm-up? Because I'm getting kind of hungry. The administrator's mandibles twitched. She activated her communicator. Release challengers 4 through 7. Simultaneously. Administrator, that's against regulation, Vex stammered. I am suspending regulations, Cathra snapped. Do it now. The ground trembled as 4 platforms rose in unison. What emerged made several spectators faint outright. A Vorthan pain cultist, its flesh mutilated and rebuilt with weaponized implant. A shard dancer, crystalline and geometric, its living body honed into bladed fractals. A captured Terran war droid, reprogrammed by raiders, still bristling with its arsenal. And finally, the nightmare of nightmares, a juvenile shadow leviathan, shackled by gravitic restraints, its writhing limbs strong enough to rupture starship hulls. "Oh, now we're talking," Zara said, cracking her knuckles. "This feels more like it." The leviathan broke free first, tentacles slamming outward with cataclysmic force. The other 3 closed in, striking from every direction in coordinated slaughter. What followed could hardly be called combat. It resembled more a physics experiment, bloody and spectacular. Zara moved as though dancing, every step and strike flowing seamlessly into the next. The Vorthan's plasma whips sliced only empty air. The shard dancer's crystalline volleys shattered harmlessly against walls, never striking their mark. The reprogrammed battle droid did land a blow, its powered fist connecting squarely with Zara's shoulder. The impact should have pulverized her bones. Instead, the droid's hand collapsed, crushed as if it were fragile foil. "Ow," Zara said lightly. "That actually stung." She seized the droid's arm and swung it like a club, smashing the Leviathan into unconsciousness before hurling the battered machine straight into the Vorthan, embedding both into the arena wall with catastrophic force. The shard dancer tried to flee, its body dissolving and reforming into shifting crystal shape. Zara caught it mid-transformation and, impossibly, twisted the living crystal into a decorative knot. Silence fell, broken only by settling rubble. "Timer?" Cathra asked faintly. 2 minutes, 14 seconds. "For all 4, Vex whispered. Zara turned the crystalline knot in her hands with satisfaction. Not bad. This would look amazing in someone's garden. The panic in the crowd was no longer containable. What they had thought would be a thrilling execution had become a revelation, a demonstration of why humanity was sealed away on their death world. These weren't mere savages. They were violations of natural law. "Administrator," Vex's voice trembled. "The remaining challengers refuse to enter the arena." Cathra's eyes narrowed. "Refuse? They've barricaded themselves in the holding cells. They're demanding hazard pay." Cathra looked back at the arena. Zara had found a relatively clean spot to sit and was casually stretching, as if preparing for the next round of a training session. "How many remain scheduled?" "Originally 23 rounds," Vex admitted. "And now?" "Technically still 23. But they've all submitted reassignment requests. Bomb disposal, piracy negotiation, even asteroid mining. Anything safer than this." On the arena floor, Zara finished stretching and gazed upward. "Hey, are we taking a break? Because I could really use some protein. Fighting always makes me hungry." For the first time in centuries, Cathra felt genuine fear. Not the electrifying thrill of danger, but the deep instinctual terror of prey realizing it had misjudged the apex predator. "Perhaps," she said slowly, carefully, "we should discuss terms." Zara cupped her hands around her mouth to project her voice. "Terms? What kind of terms?" "The kind that ensure you don't kill everyone on this station," Cathra replied. The human considered this, almost amused. "That's fair. I mean, you did try to execute me for something I didn't even do. But I'm feeling generous. How about we strike a deal? I'm listening. You give me a ship, full supplies, and safe passage out of Federation space. In return, I won't redecorate this place into abstract art. Sound reasonable?" Cathra stared at the battlefield. The arena resembled a scrapyard after detonation. Titans, nightmares, machines, all reduced to debris by a single being now sitting cross-legged in the middle of it, smiling faintly as if enjoying a picnic. "Vex, prepare docking bay 7. Full resupply." "Administrator, are you certain?" Cathra's gaze remained fixed on the human. Zara waved to a passing drone camera, cheerful as if greeting an audience. Look at her, Vex. Really look. She isn't even breathing hard. The truth struck them simultaneously. An hour of combat against the deadliest killers in 3 sectors, and the human bore no wounds, no fatigue, not even a bead of sweat. She was unchanged from the moment she'd stepped free of the pod. By the core, Vex whispered. What are humans? The reason they're quarantined, Cathra answered grimly. And the reason we're about to give this one anything she asks for. Down on the arena floor, Zara crouched amid the wreckage like a scavenger at a market stall. She plucked up a jagged shard of the crystalline shard dancer, turning it in her hand until it caught the glow of the overhead lights. Hey, mind if I keep this? It's pretty, she called. Of course, Cathra replied through the comms. Take whatever you like. Thanks. You're not so bad, for someone who just tried to kill me. The crowd had finally begun to settle, though wide gaps remained in the stands where entire sections of spectators had abandoned the station entirely. The betting markets had collapsed so thoroughly that the automated financial systems had declared bankruptcy and shut down. Then a new voice crackled over the comms. Administrator, came Security Chief Malik. We've got a situation. A situation bigger than a Deathworlder loose in my arena? Cathra asked dryly. The gladiators in cells 12 through 37 have barricaded themselves in, Malik replied. They're demanding protective custody. They say they'd rather stare down a solar flare than face the human. Cathra glanced back toward the floor. Zara was idly prodding a heap of wreckage with a broken strut, more curious than concerned. Grant their request, Cathra ordered. Full protective custody for every challenger scheduled to face her. All of them. All of them. And Malik, see that docking bay 7 is cleared. Our guest will be leaving shortly. Understood. And Administrator. Yes. Next time someone suggests capturing a human for the games, maybe just say no. Cathra's mandibles twitched faintly. She watched as Zara pocketed several glittering shards, clearly intent on keeping them as souvenirs. When the human looked up and waved cheerfully, Cathra muttered, Already recorded, Chief. This is a mistake we won't be repeating. 3 hours later, Cathra found herself engaged in the strangest negotiation of her long career. The conference chamber on Deck 15 had been hastily stripped of anything that could serve as a weapon. Sharp objects, heavy ornaments, even the reinforced chairs had been bolted down. Not that it mattered. After seeing Zara Kane crush a combat android into scrap with nothing but her body weight, Cathra suspected the human could weaponize the oxygen if she chose. So let me get this straight, Zara said, lounging in her seat as though she owned the room. You kidnapped me, dragged me across the sector for a very public execution, because you thought I blew up Trader's Rest Station. And now you're telling me it was actually some guy named Corvin Thule. That is essentially correct, Cathra admitted. Her mandibles clicked nervously. The evidence appeared conclusive at the time. Evidence? Zara leaned forward, incredulous. Vex shifted uncomfortably, consulting his datapad. There was human DNA at the scene, eyewitnesses claimed a human female was present, and the explosive residue matched Terran military ordnance. Zara blinked at them. You do realize there's more than one human in the galaxy, right? It's not just me. Statistically, the probability of encountering multiple humans outside the quarantine perimeter is approximately 0.003%, Vex replied earnestly. Right, Zara shot back, voice dripping sarcasm. Because humans never travel. We just sit on our little rock, making pottery and singing folk songs. In our defense, Cathra interjected, the Federation database lists only 17 confirmed human encounters in the past 50 years. Your database is garbage, Zara said flatly. She picked up one of her crystal fragments and held it to the light, the sharp edges glittering. So this Corvin guy, he's the real bomber? So it seems, Cathra admitted. He was captured 2 days ago attempting to sell stolen Federation weapons schematics to a criminal syndicate. And let me guess, Zara said, voice hardening, he confessed? Vex brightened. Yes, quite eagerly. He was proud of his work, in fact. Spoke at length about striking a blow against human imperialism. Zara slammed the shard down, cracking the tabletop. Her voice was quiet now, but colder than vacuum. Human imperialism? We haven't even mastered faster-than-light communications yet. That was the core of his manifesto, Cathra explained carefully. He believed sabotaging human expansion preemptively would prevent future conflict. So he killed 47 people, Zara said softly, to stop something that wasn't even happening. Cathra's instincts screamed. The air itself seemed to chill as Zara spoke, though her expression barely shifted. That is the conclusion, yes, Cathra admitted. Where is he now? Zara asked, her voice level. Corvin Thule is held in maximum security on detention station Echo 3. He awaits trial. Zara rose to her feet. Both Cathra and Vex instinctively leaned back in their chairs. I want to talk to him. That is not possible, Cathra said carefully. Echo 3 is a classified facility. Ultra-high security. Even if we wanted to grant access, the authorization alone would take months. Then I guess, Zara said, eyes narrowing, we have a problem. The lights flickered briefly. Coincidence, perhaps. Or perhaps not. Cathra rushed to fill the silence. Maybe an arrangement could be made. What do you propose? Zara sat again, though somehow the movement radiated menace. I want to look this man in the eye. I want to hear him explain why 47 innocent beings had to die for his paranoia. And I want to do it face to face. And in return? In return, I won't hold a grudge about the wrongful imprisonment and attempted execution. Vex made a strangled sound. You call that reasonable? Access to the most secure prison in 3 sectors in exchange for not lodging a complaint. Zara smiled, a sharp curve of lips that was anything but comforting. You're thinking about this wrong. I'm not asking you to give me something. I'm asking you to help me get something I'm going to take anyway. Cathra frowned. Meaning I can go to Echo 3 with your help, or I can go without it. Your choice. Cathra studied the human across from her. 6 hours ago, Zara had been shackled in high-security containment. 4 hours ago, she was scheduled for execution. 2 hours ago, she dismantled the entire gladiatorial program of Station Helix 9. And now, she was calmly asserting she could infiltrate the most secure detention site in Federation space. And the terrifying part was, Cathra believed her. Hypothetically, Cathra said slowly, what would this arrangement look like? Simple, Zara replied. You get me a legal meeting with Corvin. Official channels, all above board. I ask my questions, get some closure. Then I take my ship and vanish. You never see me again. And if we decline? Zara shrugged. Then I go anyway. Just Messier. Probably end up splashed across every newsfeed in the galaxy, Zara mused. Headline: Human breaks into Ultramax prison. Think that'll help your public relations problem? Cathra's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she processed the implication. The human wasn't wrong. The Federation's worst nightmare was footage of a single human ripping through their security systems as if they were made of tissue. Vex, Cathra said tightly. Current status of Echo 3? Standard operations, the aide replied. Approximately 800 high-security inmates, 200 staff. All visits escorted by military detail. Could we arrange a prisoner interview? Technically, yes, Vex answered. But authorization is required from the Detention Authority, Military Command, and the Federal Justice Department. How long? Standard clearance, 6 to 8 weeks. Zara coughed theatrically. I was thinking 6 to 8 hours. Impossible. Even with emergency channels, no less than 48 hours. Zara picked up a glowing shard of crystal and turned it lazily in her hand. Then you'd better start dialing. Because I'm leaving in 6 hours, with or without your help. Cathra felt a pressure rising behind her skull. A headache. Or perhaps an aneurysm. Fine. But there will be conditions. I'm listening. First, full escort. Military transport, armed guard detail, the works. Sure. Whatever helps you sleep. Second, the interview will be monitored and recorded. Fine by me. Third, you travel in containment until arrival. Zara raised an eyebrow. Containment? You mean the neural dampeners again? We both know how that turned out. Different containment. Physical restraints. You mean chains. I mean restraints designed to prevent you from killing everyone aboard if matters go poorly. Zara tilted her head, weighing the words. Theoretically prevent? Cathra's mandibles clicked uneasily. Honesty compels me to admit, I'm not sure anything could stop you if you truly chose otherwise. But regulations demand the attempt. Zara's grin flashed, sharp, amused. I appreciate the honesty. Chains it is. Anything else? Yes. If anyone dies by your hand during this journey, the agreement is void. Full military response. Shoot on sight. Fair enough, Zara said. Though you might want to clarify what counts as hurting someone. Because if anyone swings at me first, I will swing back. Reasonable self-defense is acceptable, Cathra sighed. Mass casualties are not. Deal. Zara rose and extended her hand. Pleasure doing business, Administrator. Cathra hesitated, staring at the offered appendage. The handshake was meant as a peaceful gesture. But after witnessing those same hands dismantle half the galaxy's nightmare creatures, the symbolism felt ominous. Still, she clasped it. 4 hours later, Cathra was aboard the military transport Righteous Fury, staring through the transparent barrier of its most secure holding cell. Zara Kane sat within, bound by military-grade restraints designed to contain beings with 10 times standard human strength. On her, they looked like jewelry. Are you certain those will hold? Asked Commander Thex, the ship's security chief. Honestly, Cathra admitted. No. But she agreed to wear them. That's why I believe we're safe. She agreed. Thex's scales flickered purple in disbelief. You're trusting her word? Cathra gestured toward the human, calmly flipping through a datapad. Have you a better alternative? Point taken. The voyage to Echo 3 required 12 hours at maximum warp. Zara spent the time quietly, requesting more reading material at intervals. She devoured technical manuals, Federation history, and light entertainment alike with the same steady rhythm. Hour 8. What's she reading now? Thex asked. Advanced Astrophysics, Volume 12, Vex reported. Gravitational wave detection models. Before that, a romance novel about a Vorthan trader and his AI companion. Prior to that, the complete military history of the Rigel campaigns. Thex's crest lifted in astonishment. Is she memorizing all of this? Unclear, Vex replied. Human cognition remains poorly understood. How poorly? Vex pulled up a file. Current models suggest approximately 86 billion synaptic connections in the human brain. That doesn't sound extraordinary. The average Catherian brain contains 12 billion. Oh. They all watched as Zara turned another page, appearing to read at a leisurely pace while consuming more content in hours than most species could in weeks. Commander, came a voice from the bridge. We're entering Echo 3's perimeter. Detention Station Echo 3 loomed in the void like a malignant growth, armored plating fused to a hollowed asteroid. Bristling gun platforms and defensive satellites formed a lethal perimeter. It was the most secure prison the Federation possessed, by design and by paranoia. Impressive, Zara observed, pressing closer to the barrier for a better view. Paranoid but impressive. Redundant shield generators. Nicely done. Thex frowned. How can you even see the shield arrays? The power couplings are exposed at the maintenance ports, Zara explained. Classic Federation layout. Though, she smirked. The thermal exhaust vents are still in the usual stupid place. Cathra rubbed at her temples. Please tell me you're not planning to blow up the station. What? No. Zara grinned. I just enjoy engineering. It relaxes me. Docking took another hour, delays courtesy of Echo 3's absurdly cautious protocols. Multiple biometric scans, redundant clearances, psychological profiling for the transport crew, and what appeared to be an audit of the ship's coffee supply. At last, clearance was granted. Prisoner Kane, Cathra intoned formally. Are you prepared to proceed? Zara stood, the restraints clinking faintly. Ready. Though I've got to ask, how exactly am I supposed to walk in these things? Very carefully, Cathra replied. The march through Echo 3's corridors was a study in bureaucratic paranoia. 12 armed guards encircled Zara. 15 sensor systems tracked every movement. Surveillance drones hovered overhead, recording everything. Each doorway required multi-factor clearance, biometric verification, and, by the looks of it, whispered prayers to whichever gods still bothered with prison security. This place is intense, Zara said cheerfully as they moved deeper into Echo 3. Her eyes wandered across the fortified bulkheads, the gun turrets tucked discreetly into recesses, the redundant security checkpoints. How many people have ever broken out of here? None, replied Warden Calix, a massive Thurian whose shoulders looked broad enough to bench press a shuttle. His voice carried the kind of certainty only decades of success could grant. 0 escapes in 43 years of operation. What about break-ins? The warden stopped walking. Break-ins? Yeah, Zara said with a shrug, an impressive feat given the restraints. Has anyone ever tried breaking into this place? Maybe they missed someone. Calix stared at her for a long moment before snorting and continuing onward. The interview chamber was a study in paranoia-layered overkill. Reinforced alloy walls, overlapping energy barriers, gravity dampeners, and enough hidden firepower to erase a city block. At its center sat a plain table and 2 chairs. Prisoner Thull will be brought in momentarily, Calix said. You have 30 minutes. That'll be plenty, Zara replied. The far door opened, and Corvin Thull entered under heavy guard. He was Sildarian, tall, thin, skin a pallid gray, with large black eyes that absorbed every detail. His mouth curved into a too-wide smile as he sat. So, he said, voice smooth, you're the human I framed for terrorism. That's me. Zara leaned back casually. Thanks for that, by the way. Really made my month. Corvin's grin widened, flashing teeth. My pleasure. Though I'll admit, I didn't expect you to survive the arena. That was unexpected. Yeah, well, I'm full of surprises. She leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Speaking of which, why those people? On Trader's Rest. What did they ever do to you? They were in the way. In the way of what? Progress. Evolution. The natural order asserting itself. His eyes gleamed with zeal. Humans are a plague. Primitive, violent, barbaric. Someone had to make a stand. Zara's voice was cold iron. So you slaughtered 47 innocents, including a family with children, to prove humans are violent. That's your logic. Ironic, isn't it? Corvin smiled. Zara went quiet. For several long seconds, the room was utterly still save for the faint hum of containment fields. Finally she spoke. You know the funny thing? She asked softly. Corvin tilted his head. What's that? I wasn't even mad about the framing part. Mistakes happen. Wrong place, wrong time, bureaucratic incompetence, I get it. Annoyed, sure. But angry? Not really. Her eyes hardened. But now? Now I'm angry. The air felt heavier, colder. Several guards shifted uneasily, their weapons twitching upward. You killed 47 people, Zara continued, voice steady, because you were terrified of something that only existed in your imagination. The threat is real, Corvin hissed. No, Corvin. You're real. Your paranoia is real. Your victims were real. But that phantom menace you're so afraid of? That exists only in your head. She stood. The restraints clattered to the floor with a metallic crash, though no one saw her move. The guards froze. Corvin shrank back into his chair. "But here's the thing about self-fulfilling prophecies," she said, stepping forward. "You were so afraid of humans being dangerous that you made one very, very angry." The guards' fingers twitched on their triggers, but no shots fired. Zara stopped directly in front of Corvin. He was pressed back as far as his chair would allow, eyes wide. "For the rest of your long life," she whispered, leaning close, "I want you to remember this. The monster you feared stood right here, close enough to touch you, and chose not to." She straightened, calm again, and walked back to her chair. The restraints rose from the floor as if obeying her, and she clasped them on herself once more. "I'm ready to go," she said simply. The return to Helix 9 was wrapped in silence. No one dared speak of what they had witnessed. Zara Kane slipping free of military-grade restraints without a trace, making her point, then locking herself back in as though nothing had happened. How did she do that?" Vex whispered at last. Cathra's mandibles clicked faintly. "I don't know. And I'm not certain I want to." When they reached Docking Bay 7, a sleek vessel awaited, small but well-stocked. Supplies filled its hold. Food, fuel, navigation systems, trade goods. More than promised. "This is generous," Zara said, scanning the manifest. "Much more than we agreed." "Consider it hazard pay," Cathra replied. "Compensation for our errors." "Fair enough." Zara removed the restraints for the final time and handed them to a nervous guard. "Thanks for the adventure, Administrator. Educational, in its way." "Where will you go?" Cathra asked. "Somewhere quiet. Maybe find a world with good fishing and terrible calms. Somewhere simple." She paused at the ramp. "Oh, and Cathra? Update your files on humans. We're not as primitive as you think. But we're not the monsters Corvin imagines, either. We're just complicated." Cathra inclined her head. "I'll make a note." "Good. And tell your people most of us are reasonable. We just don't like being falsely accused of terrorism and sentenced to death. Call it a quirk." With that, Zara stepped aboard. The ship's engines purred to life, and within moments she was gone, another streak of light vanishing into the star lanes. Cathra stood in the empty bay, the echoes of engines fading. "Vex," she said quietly. "Yes, Administrator? Update the database. New classification under humans. Approach with caution. Extreme diplomacy recommended. Absolutely no capture attempts. Ever. And if Command asks why?" Cathra's gaze fell to the arena below, where workers still struggled to scrape away the remains of shattered champions. "Tell them to watch the recordings. All of them. Then ask if they truly want to know what happens when you make a human more than mildly annoyed." Somewhere, far from Helix 9, Zara Kane hummed an old Terran tune about freedom and endless roads as she charted a course to the outer rim. Behind her, an entire station full of species had learned a lesson about arrogance, fear, and the danger of assumptions. For Zara, it had been a productive day's work. And so ends the tale of Zara Kane, the human who faced the galaxy's worst and walked away untouched. If you enjoyed traveling through this story, don't forget to subscribe for more journeys across the stars, like and share to spread it, and let us know in the comments. What kind of sci-fi worlds do you want to explore next?